Hey there, it's Robin, and you're listening to Healthy Habits for a Healthier Home. I'm here to help you create a healthier life, one simple shift at a time. If you're a mama ready to ditch toxins, clean up your family's nutrition, and build daily habits that support your well-being, you're definitely in the right place. Each episode is packed not only with education, but practical tips and tools to help you transform your health and your home without that feeling of overwhelm. So let's take this journey together to create a thriving, low-tox home for you and your family. If you're ready, say, I am ready. Now let's get into this episode. Hey y'all, welcome back. I am super excited to have Christina with us here today. She is a proud owner of Cheers to Health. She's got over 2 decades of experience in pediatric nursing. She's a mom of 2. She's kind of transformed based on one of her children's health journey, which I feel like is the story for most moms when they kind of find a different avenue. So I'm super excited. She's got some really great things to share with us that they're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to all of us. I'm excited to introduce you and have you introduce yourself, really. So welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Just honored to be here to share this space with you. And thank you for everybody who's listening. We really appreciate your time as well.
Absolutely. So I'm always curious, what prompted you to want to go into nursing? Because that was your first kind of step into health and wellness.
Yes, it definitely was. So when I was in high school, I wanted to go into fashion merchandising, to be a buyer. Then I volunteered for Helping Hands, and we went to this place called, it was in Disney, and it was a place where cancer patients were able to go and stay there. They got to go to Disney World, and it just really opened my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so awesome what they do for these families, because they endure a lot.
Yes, they do.
So after I went there, a seed was planted. And I was like, man, I want to be a nurse and help these people, help these families, help these kids. I started my undergrad for nursing. I got my bachelor's degree, took my boards, and right out of graduation, I started working on a pediatric hematology, oncology, bone marrow transplant floor.
Wow.
So I've been a nurse almost 17 years, and well over a decade, I've spent my time in peds hemonc and bone marrow. Now, before I even knew about nutrition, holistic living, as a young nurse, you think you're going to change the face of medicine and nursing. So I was 22 at the time. And I was like, man, what are these kids eating? We have to be able to get them something healthier. That seed, little did I know, was gonna, roll over and grow. Nothing happened, and, made big hospital systems that I worked for. So I went to another healthcare system that was just strictly pediatric bone marrow transplant. And, you have Pediasure, Ensure, and mac and cheese and pizza and all these things where these kids have no white count. They have no immune system whatsoever. They have sores in their mouths, just so many complications. So fast forward, COVID happened, and we started changing things in our home. And for me personally, like for my body, I did a Whole30 like years ago because I was just very gassy. I would get like like an itchy patch, kind of like an eczema patch. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of feeling like this. So that's kind of when I first also saw the connection between food and how it affects our bodies. But again, I didn't have that fully connection yet. So I started a school clinic on my kid's school. It was as natural as you can think. Force of nature disinfectant, active spray. I mean, it was curated so beautifully, diffused essential oils. And
Well, I want to stop you for 1 second. How were you able to do that at your children's school? Is it a
it's
private school?
a private Christian school. So
Okay.
I did have say as to what came. They were awesome in letting me steer that because they did not have a school clinic when we were coming back from COVID.
Gotcha.
So if it was in a public school system, I'm sure it would have been extremely different. but very grateful to have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very another different side of nursing. Still, living my healthy lifestyle, and we move up here. I did like general basic, pediatric nursing. Now I work in pediatric mental health, which has been extremely eye-opening to the challenges that our youth face every day and lack of support. They don't sleep, they're eating all these things. So my nursing career has definitely taken me along a path. Like I've seen birth, I've seen death, I've, you know, participated in many events that are difficult and, mourned losses of, patients that we loved dearly, families that we grew really close to. And it was just time, I just recognized it was time for me to just kind of put that part of my nursing career to bed after being in it for so long. And it's funny how, so when I started in pediatric oncology, I thought I'm going to be a clinical educator. I'm going to do this forever. I'm going to know everything. And God knows the plans that He had for me. It was
Right.
not that. And so when we moved up here, I just didn't fully align with our Western medicine model because learning more about the body, then I decided to go to nutritional therapy school through the Nutritional Therapy Association. I was like, all right, I got to do it. I have to, learn more. I want to start my own business. I want to be in control over what and how I can help people rather than following orders and just doing things that I think can be managed a different way.
Can I ask you a question just out of
Yeah.
pure curiosity? I know there's, lots of rules and red tape and things like that that happen within hospital settings and things like that. So from your perspective, where you are now,
Mhm.
what would you say were some of, and even then, some of the biggest challenges knowing some of the things that other people either didn't want to know or hadn't been educated yet?
So in nursing school, I had this discussion with somebody today. We are taught to work alongside the Western medicine model and physicians. So in nursing school, we get anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, pharmacology, learning how to take care of patients in med surg, OB, pediatrics, mental health. But we don't really learn about why the body functions and dysfunctions. In NTP school, I learned that. So having NTP and a nurse together, that knowledge, it just helped a lot. So there is no really preventative education. They're still doing formula. They do Pediasure. They give antibiotics for cold viruses. They give
Yeah,
Tylenol around the clock for a fever instead of just letting the body naturally fight it off. So then you're prolonging that illness that that child has.
right. You're suppressing the immune
So,
system.
and then if you say something, depending on the doctor that you're working with, some physicians don't like to be questioned.
Hmm.
So, and I like to say, I know that there are amazing physicians out there. I have worked with phenomenal oncologists, phenomenal nurse practitioners. They exist 100%, and we need people like that. But when somebody doesn't want you to question them, I don't really vibe with that because as a nurse, we're taught to advocate for our patients
Yes.
and we are taught to understand why you're choosing to do something. And it is our responsibility to know that,
And
even
it is also your responsibility to give them all their options. It's
yeah,
not just one way or the highway. And I think um, my kids were never in the hospital, but my mom has dementia and she's been been her caretaker for a lot of years. And they do not like when you question them. And
yeah,
they do not like when you say, I don't want that. And that's okay. Got to get comfortable in your skin to be able to voice those things and whatnot. But when
yes.
you're working alongside somebody, that makes your job very difficult. I want to say a couple of things. There are amazing doctors out there. There are amazing nurses.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they don't get good education. They get educated in their little specialty area. They're not educated from a holistic lens. It's very departmentalized. And I'm hopeful in the next decade or two, things will transition a little bit because there are the functional people out there. There are the integrative people that are coming more to the
Yeah.
surface. And I just encourage, and anybody listening, I encourage you to think about your body from a holistic lens. Your heart doesn't beat without the blood flow, right? Your knees don't bend without the joints and the
Muscle.
tendons and the muscles.
Mhm.
Like we're not just compartmentalized organs. We are a one being. You don't just get a virus one place. The virus is in your body. And so we have to figure out why and why is it
Right.
not recovering from it? And there's a slew of like the under what we call root causes, right?
Right.
And our doctors, pediatricians, surgeons, they're just not taught that. So I hope my prayer is that the education system will catch up for nurses and doctors, and they need to be having nutrition in there. One of the things I found really fascinating, which I tell the story all the time, because when my dad had heart surgery, he had to be in ICU.
Mhm.
On that floor, you were not allowed to be served sugar. Okay, which I was like, well, that's cool and that's interesting, except they gave, sweet and low and
Sugar
whatever.
free.
But I was like, why is that? I mean, I knew why, but I was like, why is that? And they said, because their immune systems are so suppressed right now while they're here. And I said, oh, okay, but tomorrow or the next day when he gets moved to floor 4, his immune system's going to be rocking so he can get sugar again. I was just like, what? So I go to say that, it's like, and I say this often also, common sense sometimes just flies out the window. And I think we've
It's
got to
just
get back to some
there's just
common
really
sense.
not because these doctors are taught to prescribe and treat. That's it.
Yes.
They put a band-aids on top of band-aids on
Hmm.
top of band-aids.
Yeah.
And what happens is you tell people, I go, you're working with your primary, your endocrinologist, your cardiologist. Those three people do not communicate to each other. They
Hmm.
are making their own plans, prescribing
Right.
their own medications. And then you have your primary who's like, oh, well, go back to them and see. I hear it so much. And I had a bet with this one lady. I go, okay, when you go to your endocrinology appointment, I bet you $5 that they're going to tell you they can't do anything. I was
And
right.
you go to
I
your
told you.
cardiologist. They always
I
say it's
go, I
not me,
told
it's
you.
them.
So she's like, yeah, you were right. It was a waste of my time. I go, unfortunately, yes, because like
Right.
you said, our body it does not function without the other. I break my pinky toenail, I'm gonna walk weird.
Right.
Everything is connected.
Right.
Everything. Without
Right.
one, you don't have the other. And
Right.
that's the part where they're missing that piece because you can't just treat your thyroid. Okay, well, why is that thyroid not working? You got to go back to your foundations, blood sugar regulation,
Hmm.
digestion,
Yeah.
sleep, stress, all of that.
M-
So,
My biggest like scratching of the head comes with I do believe in functional testing. I do believe that it's important to test and have an in-depth test and testing done for different reasons to discover some of these things that are happening that could potentially lead to the root cause.
hmm
But I don't want functional and integrative to turn into supplement pushing
yeah,
because that's what I see. And I've been to several different ones. My kids have been to several different ones. And although each of them have helped us in different ways, the supplement pushing, it's just as bad as the drug pushing. It's
yeah,
like I yes, I do understand we have to sometimes boost a level of something if you're not if it at a satisfactory level. I do understand that. But why are we not at that satisfactory level?
right.
What's the dysfunction? Which
hmm
pathway is not working? Are we not
right.
absorbing? Are we not detoxing? It's like those are the bigger questions that I still feel because it's not as regulated, I guess. I know
Yeah,
there's different things,
yeah,
but so
definitely.
again, we have a long way to go, but we're making
Mhm.
strides. And
Yes,
people like
100%.
you going into something and then having that awakening moment when you realize I have more to give because I know more now and I'm being stifled over here. I have to get out of this box so that I really can impact more families. So that leap for you, now you're still doing pediatric mental health.
I still do pediatric mental health. I work part-time at a surgical center, so I haven't left nursing completely. I
Mhm.
just have left the hospital bedside.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're also doing the Cheers to Health.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that, which is great because I think again, you're balancing, right?
Trying to find it. Every day
In
is
the
different.
pediatric mental health part that you do, I would love to talk about a little bit about what you've seen, because it's a big conversation, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of parents that are dealing with that with their children.
I just want to say I had never done mental health. Like I said in the beginning, it's been an eye opener to
Mhm.
see, as I would say, more the teenagers, they will literally say, I can't deal, I can't go to school, I have social anxiety. A lot of, I want to say majority of the kids that I'll talk to, they don't do any extracurricular activities. Nothing.
Because it's overwhelming.
Because it's overwhelming. Whether they're getting bullied. And I've said this a couple of times. If we think about when COVID happened 5 years ago, those teenagers were in middle school at the time. Middle school is a very formative year for kids, their sense of identity, who they are. I have two boys. I know the challenges. They're doing hormone shifts and they're just trying to find their voice, their place. But
Mhm.
when the world shut down, even kids that were like 3 and 4, like I was talking to somebody yesterday, her second grader is still in speech therapy because when COVID happened, they were like 4 and the whole mask thing just didn't help their speech. So if it's
Mm,
affected little ones, imagine how it's affected kids that we need social interaction. We were
mhm.
not meant to be virtual everything.
Yes.
That's just how we are as a human race. So a lot of kids, and I try to tell them, I go, look, you're going to endure some sort of grief, a death, a loss, going to college. I go, you need to get this right up here as soon as possible to understand that, because if not, you will struggle.
Because in the functional world, there's certain tests like neurotransmitter tests and testing. And personally, we've had that done in our house, and it was extremely eye-opening, like to see the correlation between gut and brain.
Hmm.
And when your neurotransmitters are not balanced, what that actually causes for the child. Then on top of it, you add the device that
Yep.
literally is their appendage,
The food,
and then you right in the gut, in the
social
food part
media.
of it.
Hmm.
And so it's never a one thing. It's
Nope.
always multifactorial. And so we have to be able to look at all of those facts. It's going to be different. It's bio-individual for each person. And some people are really affected by the lockdown, and other people didn't phase
Different.
them,
And it
you know?
depends on what their families did at the time, because every
Absolutely.
family handled it differently. Like my
Absolutely.
family, we continued living and went out and stuff, but some people weren't like that. And, a lot of kids are abused, they have
Mhm.
traumas, they have
Yeah.
griefs, and then
Yeah.
let's say their parent died at the age of 9, and
Right.
now at 14 they're acting out because, and I'll try to explain to that parent, if this happened at this age at 9, it's difficult to really process that, where at the age of 14 they really understand what happened and they're still trying to process that loss, because it's challenging. Like we've suffered loss in our family personally, and my kids were like in upper elementary, and it affected them more in middle school because of that development and their concrete
Right.
way of thinking. So
Right.
it's trying to, and there's also, again, like you said, lack of parental involvement. These kids don't sleep. A lot of kids do not eat breakfast. And even some kids will not eat breakfast or lunch and they'll get home. They're just like, I'm not, a lot of kids don't have an appetite. They're not hungry, a lot of
I would love
anxiety.
to do an experiment where you take them out of their current environment for a month and you just switch it up, and there's no electronic, and there's there's a group for community interaction, and
Hmm.
there's book reading, and there's projects, and there's
And
getting
side
curious
time.
about, yeah, like I would love to remove them, and they're eating nutritious foods, and you're gonna start getting hungry. If you're not hungry at breakfast, your cortisol and your melatonin is definitely,
And your hunger hormones, it's not
yeah, they're
triggering your
just
brain to eat.
correct. They're
Yeah.
just, it's everything's messed up. So, but again, I feel like where you're at currently, there could still be a lot of things added to what you're doing, not you particularly, but the center, that could take it to the next level. And
It
that's
could.
right. And that's the Western part. And so for you, I imagine that's emotional for you. It's hard for you. You're doing the best you can. And they're very lucky to have you. But now that you know something completely different,
It's
yeah.
still hard because, I still work for a healthcare system. I do my best and say what I can say that's appropriate.
Yes.
And, just like, hey, look, mom and dad, have you, looked at artificial colors? Have you looked at this? Just to plant some seeds.
That's great.
Even just resources. Resources is another thing that is lacking for these kids. And also talking about mental health,
Hmm.
because not even just with kids, with adults. There's been quite a number of first responders that have taken their lives recently, and for God knows what reason, and it's tragic to even
Hmm.
hear that kind of stuff. But healthcare burnout is a real thing, and we're taught that, okay, just, put it away and we'll deal
Mm.
with it. Like, I have had kids when I worked in oncology, they would pass, I would want to cry, and but I'm taking care of another family. I don't want to freak them out, so
Right.
it's tough to compartmentalize
Department.
that. And
Percent.
I think that we also need to do a better job at learning how to communicate what's affecting us and how it's affecting us, and saying it's okay to talk about your feelings, especially with boys, especially with
Hmm.
men,
Yep.
because if not, they're going to do other things, whether it's drugs, it's cutting, it's watching illicit things online, gambling, drinking, all these other, and what they're doing with that is they're coping.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
teaching how do we cope with something. And
Hmm.
nobody's perfect, right? We all have our flaws, but if we're able to work and teach that there's better and healthier ways to do something, I think that the youth and the adult race would be better off, because there are so many people on anxiety medications and depression and for years, for years. And then at some point, when you're on it for decades, it's extremely difficult to come off of.
Absolutely.
So
I have really strong feelings around that. I think that anybody that is being recommended an SSRI should have a genetic test, because there is a genetic test to tell you how your body would basically respond to the different SSRIs. And I think that it's a huge, huge disservice to give a random pill to somebody when we know for sure that they could react in different ways,
yeah,
when there's a simple blood test to tell that, and how much more effective it would be and less traumatic, and how they're like, well, we have to try one, sometimes it doesn't work. Well, we shouldn't have to be doing that. Like, it's 2025, we know we have this test, and anybody who's going to be prescribed one of those, it should be part of the protocol.
well, it's like putting a band-aid. It's a band-aid.
Yeah, it can be life altering for some people. And um there is a gal, her name's slipping my mind. Her husband's name was, I want to say Howie, but it wasn't, but it was something like that. He got like a new job, and he was super stressed and wasn't sleeping. So he went and they gave him an SSRI. He thought it was a sleeping, like he didn't know what it
What,
was.
what
His name's Woody.
I
After being on it, it was making him worse, and he was having like panic attacks and all of these
mm,
things. And he asked the doctor, and the doctor's like, you have to give it 6 weeks. You have to give it 6 weeks. And she was traveling or something, and he ended up taking his life. It's an unfortunate thing. We have to just be more cognizant, I feel like, when we are prescribing things, to make sure it's done in the safest way possible.
it is.
Especially it is
Sorry.
okay. Okay. Yeah, no.
Kim Witzak.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And she created Woody's Law or something, like, or she's
Yes.
trying to do
Yes.
something, and she's
She's
trying to
working with like
educate.
FDA and a
Yes,
bunch of stuff.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
but and there's kids on these medications.
Oh yeah,
But
100%.
instead of addressing, and it's again getting to the root cause, well, what has happened in your life that
Mhm.
has led you to this, and
And
working
I
through
do
it.
believe that there is an emotional component, and there is all those things, but your gut health is very much connected to your brain health.
Mm-hmm.
And your brain health is your neurotransmitters, and your neurotransmitters cause, they're excitatory and they're inhibitors. And again, if we're not looking at any of that, how do we know what we're actually treating, right? It's, for some kids, it might not be all up in their head. It might be in their gut, and their gut's telling their brain that they feel a certain way. So again, if you're listening to this podcast today, I always say investigate. Do your own investigative research. reach out, talk to multiple people before just going with one person's recommendation,
Mhm.
because it does matter. And it might take a little bit longer and it might be a little bit more expensive up front for some of these tests. If we can help somebody with their gut health and repopulating their microbiome and ditching and not having inflammatory issues, or if they have overgrowth of a candida or SIBO or whatever it is, it directly affects your brain. So
Mhm.
we have to take that into consideration when we're saying these kids have anxiety and depression and all of these things.
It doesn't just happen. You don't just get cancer. You don't just get diabetes. You don't just get arthritis. That's
Right.
not how the body works. I was just going to piggyback what you said about parents or anybody doing their own research. I always tell people you have to be your own advocate.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to question doctors because guess what? They're human. They make mistakes just like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
And they don't know you really well. They may have 5 minutes with you. If that, you know yourself better than anybody else. So if they push aside what you're saying, find somebody else. Fire them
100%. Yep.
and part ways with them. You are not bound to them. You don't know anything to them. They don't know you from their neighbor, basically.
Yeah.
But it's coming to a point in health where we have to know more kind of than they do in a sense.
Hmm.
Because if we don't ask questions, then we're just marching orders and just basically being robotic with our health. And
Well, and
like
you're
you
just going
said,
through the American system, which is
exactly, you're
going to
going
give
through
you
the
the American outcome.
standard of care.
Right.
You're going to have the standard treatment, feel the standard way. And like you said, it may cost more, but how much does your health cost?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you
And I
know,
mean, obviously, everybody that listens to my podcast knows I'm like a die hard, die free, well, die hard, funny, but a die free advocate for the sheer fact of what it causes and what happens to these kids when they ingest dyes,
yeah.
most of them. And I think for some of them, maybe they have like what I call silent behaviors, silent things that are happening that are being caused by ingesting ultra processed food and dyes and additives and things like that, that aren't maybe like your typical hyperactivity or your typical impulsiveness and things like
Right.
that. And again, how does that affect the brain? Because again, our brain is fully
And
connected to the rest of our
they're
body.
growing brains, you know, it's
For sure.
they're still developing their whole brain from back to front. I was
Hmm.
reading in a book like your frontal lobe is like the last thing to develop.
But something I have a conversation with my kids, and again, this is just my personal opinion and where we stand as far as like trying to help our kids.
Yeah.
We've put a taboo on feeling anxious, right? Like there, it's if you feel anxious, you need to be on something immediately to numb out. And I think, what I've tried to, explain to my children is that feeling anxious is a normal feeling
Mhm.
sometimes, not progressively where you're in a ball on your bed. No.
Yeah.
But if you're going into a situation that is a change, that is unknown, that feels off out of your comfort zone, if you're not feeling a little bit anxious, that would be odd, right?
Yes.
If you're
Like
on
you're
something that
numb.
numbs down all of that, then that's also something. It's like we should feel anxious. It kind of revs us up. It gets us ready for something that's unknown. And it's
Hmm.
up to us to have the conversation of, I'm feeling anxious about this because it's an unknown,
Yeah.
because it's new for me and I'm a shyer person. But then it's reframing that and saying, this could be exciting. This could open a whole new door, a whole new world for me if I just give it a
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah. Or it could be a sign of danger. We want to know if something is not the best
Absolutely.
situation for us. So it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, let's like look at the pros and cons.
Right.
And I have two teenagers. I refuse to erase men that don't communicate their feelings. So in my home, I'm like, hey, how are you guys doing mentally? You guys struggling with something? Everything's good. I get so many times a kid will tell me, well, my mom doesn't need to have access to my phone. It's mine. I go, no, if you are under the age of 18 and if you're living under their roof, your parents have every right to do whatever they want because that is your parent. So
Hmm.
you also have these kids that are very entitled that, oh, it's a mine. No, I'm sorry. Let
It's
me
not
pop
yours
your
until you live
bubble
on
and
your
let's
own
be
and
real.
you,
Exactly. You want to pay the bills?
right.
Then it's your own. But you are your parents' responsibility until you're out of the house.
Right.
And I've seen kids too and they have Amazon stuff, they order a bunch of things that they shouldn't do, and parents again have no clue. So it's also getting these parents to just be involved in their lives. Oh, but I
And
feel like I'm interfering with their privacy. And no, because then if the school calls you, hey, We found a vape in their backpack. Oh, I didn't know. Go through their
Right.
backpack. Like,
Right.
why
Well,
wouldn't you?
and also I think for parents, I'm just going to defend parents for a second because
Hmm.
we didn't grow up with this stuff, right? We grew up with
Yeah.
different things, but we didn't grow up with everything at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And so that's a new world for us to try to navigate.
Hmm.
There needs to be strict boundaries. Your kids thrive on boundaries. All
Yeah.
children, all adolescents, as much as they kick back and scream like a toddler, they thrive on those boundaries and they
Yeah, they do.
also respect. And so when we're just allowing things for ease, relook at what you're doing and how are you communicating with your kids? What is the family dynamic? Are you having sit downs and asking what was the high of the day, the low of the day?
Hmm.
What is going on? And for me, I used social media as a tool. Like when I would see something that I felt that was inappropriate, I would say, "Hey guys, I just want to have a conversation around this. Like this is what do you see? When you see this, what does your brain say? Because I have a different, I'm obviously, much older than you guys.
Yeah.
And it always led to such great conversation. And, what they saw was very different than what I was internalizing as a parent. And I would say, well, you might see it that way because you're basically conditioned to that and they're so desensitized, yeah,
Mhm.
desensitized to what they're seeing. But I'm like, from an adult perspective, this is what adults see, right? And so when you're posting something like this, it
Mhm.
screams out a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to help you guys be aware of what's being screamed because the kids that are posting it are screaming it, but nobody can hear them. So it's about having that conversation, that I hate to use the word narcissism, but it's like when we grew up, if you were in a picture alone, that was strange. It was very strange. If you didn't have your group of friends with you in your picture, it was like nobody took a picture. Now
Hmm.
it's like one with your friends and 20 million. I have girls, but 20 million by yourself, and it's just like, why do you need all these pictures? Like, what? And it doesn't have to be
I know.
perfect, right? There's no perfection. So it is a struggle because it's what they see, it's what they know, it's what they've grown up with. And it's like, so continually, I just say to any parent, conversate, conversate,
Yeah.
conversate.
And put limits on things too. Social media,
100%.
like 15, 16, read the text messages, but sit down with them to explain to them why. Like I've had to do with my own kids. I go, I trust you. I
Hmm.
don't trust the millions of people and the things you have access to because you just don't know. There's
Hmm.
child predators on games,
Yeah.
there's child predators on social media.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid you're in that situation. I've seen it at work. It's
Hmm.
happened. No parent, that's the
Absolutely.
last thing a parent wants to deal with. So set
Hmm.
your limits. You can cut off your internet on their phone, because you want them to start winding down at a certain time. I tell
So
my kids,
what I think is interesting about that is the addictive properties of a phone, and parents have it too. And so it's like, how do you put the limits on when you don't have limits for yourself? And so
and
that
then
is
doing it
something.
together as a family.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. That's kind of like creating healthy habits.
Mhm.
It's a family thing. But again, it's going to look different for everybody. And I think having multiple kids really does kind of show you that.
It does because they're too, like I had this conversation with my kids. I'm like, the way I parent you, I can't parent your brother.
Right.
You're two totally different people.
Right.
The way you see things, the way you learn things, the way
Yeah.
you feel,
Yeah.
it's different. And, like you said, if, one parent is on their phone all the time, then the parent can't tell the child, yeah, you have to get off your phone. And the child's going
Right.
to say, well, you're not on your phone, so why should I do if you're
Right.
not doing? So we have to be that example for our kids. And then the traits that we're teaching them, the lifestyle, the nutrition, the sleep, that God willing will roll over for their kids so that way they can understand. Like, I think there's a really big disconnect between
Hmm.
our health because our body is inside, like all of our
Hmm.
organs.
Right. 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 So you can't see
We
it.
can't see it. We can see losing fat, gaining fat, building muscle, losing muscle, having acne, not having it, having eczema, all that stuff. If we really try to connect with our
Hmm.
body more, it will make more sense as to why we're doing certain things.
Yeah.
And
No, I
we
agree with
really have to get better thinking like that. How is this going to make me feel? What is it going to do to me inside? What is it going to do to my cells?
that. I had a doctor on the show who was also at the community viewing for To Die For. And one of the
Okay.
things that he said that really resonated and literally has stuck with me is that we see all the external, right? So like
Yeah.
when a kid dies, we see the outbursts, the behavior things, but what is happening for that kid on the inside?
Yeah.
His brain's inflamed,
Yep.
right? We don't see that, but that's
No.
what's technically happening is inflammation of the brain. And I just, ever since you said that, it's like, it's just has shifted my perspective to seeing things a little bit differently. And exactly what you're saying. It's like, we can't see a lot of the things inside. You don't see candida, you don't see overgrowth, you don't see inflammation, you don't see, but you
No.
feel it. You
Yeah.
don't feel good. And so that's the connection. So I want to kind of pivot. You're doing this, but you decided to start creating Cheers for Health, which is more aligned with where you want to go with what you know and your skill and your practice base. So
Yeah.
what are you doing with Cheers to Health, and where do you see it and want it going in the future?
So, Cheers to Health is my business as a nurse and nutritional therapy practitioner. So, my overall goal with my business is to empower and educate individuals and families on how to live a holistic, balanced lifestyle, teaching about nutrition, sleep, cleaning products. I mean, just everything that touches our skin, gets near our skin, and really promoting that we can't control the external world. We can control it to a certain extent. Like I carry my own sanitizer, my own lotion, I carry essential oils with me. I can control what I bring into the four walls of my home. I control the food I buy, I control the essential oils I buy, I control my laundry detergent, I control what I am exposing my family to. It didn't look like that. And I really like to make a point of that. Like when I worked night shift years ago, I would get KFC, Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A.
You're
I didn't
surviving.
know. I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
gotta get something for work. Let me go. I would get Starbucks. We would go like at 12 to 1 in the morning, go down, get Starbucks. Then once I started bringing my own K cup, I started bringing my own creamer. And for months, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get rid of my Keurig because of the microplastics. Finally, we switched over to a French press. So me and my husband, now we grind our beans. Again, that was a transition for us.
Right. And I call them 1% shifts. It's like you
Yeah.
can't make a 180 overnight. And so it's about, so tactical and tangible for people to walk away with. What are 5 areas that you recommend for parents to kind of start digging into? I call it being an ingredient detective, but it's like,
Mhm.
what are your 5 areas off the top of your head that people can say today, like, oh, okay, I need to look at those 5 things?
So definitely household cleaners. We use them. I've cleaned my counter probably like 5 to 10 times today. Why? Because you spray droplets, inhalation goes into your body systemically. So that's a big thing. Those are, kitchen counter, glass cleaner, bathroom cleaner, laundry detergent is another thing because we're washing our clothes and it's on our skin.
Yes.
Medicine cabinet. Medicine cabinets are filled with like Sudafed and Tylenol and Motrin and Mucinex. Most of them have artificial colors in them. They'll have polysorbate, they will have polysucralose, some other ingredients that are not warranted if we're trying to help our body. A medicine cabinet's another one. Those are easier things to kind of start looking, not that you have to switch everything out. Food containers. What do you store your food in? Do you store it in glass or do you store it in plastic? Your water. What are you putting your water in? If it's plastic, an easy switch is to go to a stainless steel cup. I don't know how many that is. Even just sleep, just trying to get at least 8 hours of sleep.
I think that's a huge one that people miss the boat on, especially working men and women. But I just think in general, work-life balance is an issue for most adults and in our country. I'm not saying every country because I do think there are countries that do it a lot better than us.
They do.
So I think that is an area in which I would, another like prayer and hope would be that corporations would start bringing some of this health and wellness into their institution or not their corporations so that people can function to the best of their ability and,
Yeah.
not because people think they're being efficient by working, 18 hours a day. And really you're less efficient because your brain
Or
is
they're
not
taking
working.
like 2 or 3 Celsius, or like, oh, I need an Adderall to function.
Right. And
If you need that, then you need to call one of us so we can help you out.
right,
Because
right.
that's not
100%.
Ideal for your body.
So I do like a whole non-toxic thing, but I would love to know, like I like Branch Basics.
Love. I've been using
So
them for years.
okay, so
Yes.
as far as cleaning products, do you have another favorite? I heard you say
So Branch Basics, I use Force of Nature
Porch of
to
Nature. Okay.
clean. To clean.
Okay.
Um, I do have a link for them if anybody wants. It's super easy. So you have the little cylinder,
Hmm.
you fill the water to the line, you put in the capsule, turn it on. It does this amazing solution, transfer it into the bottle. It's good for 2 weeks and it's safe. In fact, you can use it
Effective.
for babies, pets.
Hmm.
I mean, it's amazing.
I'll put the link in the show
You,
notes for everybody, and I just
yeah.
go look at the whole like science behind their
Yeah.
product because it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I always tell people too, I go, don't believe me. I go, yes, I've done the research for you, just I'm sure like you have, but it's
go
good
look.
education to know
Mhm.
what's out there. And I would rather give my money to companies who give a hoot about what's coming into my home than some major company that is just mass producing to make money off of the consumer. Force of Nature, I like Molly Suds for the dishwasher
Mhm.
tablets. I use Pure C for our hand soap and dish
Okay.
soap to wash dishes. I use Active instead of like Neosporin for our cuts and scrapes.
Okay.
So that's kind of like
I'll
for
put all that in the show
products.
notes so you guys can kind of look it up.
Yeah, but they're great. And I will have to say, I mean, praise God, we really haven't been sick in a long time. If it happens, it's once like I got sick during my Christmas break of NTP school because I was pretty stressed, which made total sense.
Right, right.
But other than that, we have because people think, oh my gosh, well, the cleaner doesn't smell like it's clean. I go, you're smelling chemicals and fragrance that can cause respiratory issues, endocrine issues, carcinogenic issues. So that's a really big misconception. Just because it doesn't smell clean doesn't mean it's clean. If it smells clean, you're likely inhaling chemicals.
Right.
So you
And
can
that
also
fragrance I always talk
exactly
about is a
fragrance,
loophole for anybody who's new to the
super
show.
loophole.
Right. Everybody's new, it allows you to put multiple chemicals into something without disclosing actually what it
Yeah,
is. So if you see a
exactly.
product that has perfume, parfum, or fragrance, you definitely want to avoid because on any app like EWG, Think
Hmm.
Dirty, Clear Up, they rank 7, 8, 9, 10 because that you can just have that one ingredient and it's going to knock them all out.
Exactly. Like we used native and I thought it was good. And
It
then I
was
had
at one point.
fragrance. Yeah. And then I was
And
like,
then they
okay, forget it.
switched. They sold out and switched, and I was super bummed.
Yeah. So
So
like even for shampoo and conditioner, we use Attitude and
okay.
I've been really happy with their stuff and they're EWG certified.
Hmm.
So even
And
like for
again, so
cleaning.
if you're starting out on your journey and you're like, I don't know where to begin, I think EWG and like a app like that, even like the Bobby
Mhm.
approved app for food, like
Yes,
I think
love Bobby approved.
that it just helps to ditch some of the overwhelm because you
Yeah.
can say, I need a shampoo without going to the aisle and actually reading every
You can
ingredient. You
just
can just
search bar.
right, and then you can
Hmm.
see who has it and where you can get it from.
Exactly. And you can pick, like
Yeah.
I just listed up like 7 things to swap. But I would say probably cleaning would be the best one because we clean a lot in our house. So I would recommend if you're gonna start there, that might be a good place to start that ways because let's say if you have teenagers and they're helping
Hmm.
clean, we
Right.
want to minimize that exposure for them, especially
Correct.
now with all these teens having endocrine issues and hormonal imbalances you know. So those
Yes.
are pretty good places to start.
So I'm super excited that you've, kind of gone through your journey and you expanded your knowledge and now you're, starting your own company and, really going to be able to help and make a difference, not only in your area, but other places just because of the virtual aspect.
Yes.
But in your area, you and I have been talking for months and
Yeah.
you really wanted to do something for your particular area you live in. And so tell everybody what you've kind of put together. Number one, to show that it's possible, that it doesn't take, you know, uh, an influencer or a
Mhm.
highly, influential, person with a lot of money to make changes.
Yes. So my dad is like, we need to do a Maha movement in Palm Coast. I was like, okay. He's like, well, let's do it. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, what do you want me to do? So I hand selected some individuals that are local holistic healthcare professionals, meaning that their view on health is holistic in the sense that we look at the whole body, nutrition, everything, not so much with the Western medicine model. So my dad knows the mayor, so he, put it kind of just an idea floating, and we met with the mayor. So we have the support of the city of Palm Coast to start the Palm Coast Flagler Health Initiative.
Which is awesome.
So we're so excited, and our overall goal is to get to bring community together in regards to health and nutrition, because we know the epidemic of just chronic health, and that it's getting to our youth. Fatty liver disease, kids are on pre-diabetic medications, the anxiety, the depression, the mental health, the lack of education. So it's more putting this information out to our community and showing them that, look, we're normal people. We have a vision of what we want to do, of how we can help locally, because MAHA is a massive movement. So we're just bringing something to what we can do here to the people
And that is the
around us.
idea of MAHA. I mean, the MAHA Action Group, the idea is that, it is one giant umbrella. And then they really want each area, each city, each what county to take initiative and start things, because that is, we can't expect that the people at the very tippy top are going to
Oh
be able
yeah.
to change our health all over
No.
the place. They're going to put some things into place, and they're starting the conversation, and they're going to work on their portion of things, but it's still up to us as community, as our family. And after I went to the Florida State Capitol when I was driving home, you know, that's what I was really reminded of, is that, we can fight for change, which I absolutely will not stop doing until it happens. But at the same time, it always goes back to education, and being an educator at heart. You don't have to know everything, but you
Yeah.
just have to know one or two things to teach somebody else one or two things, and getting together with your community and sharing that vision, sharing those things together, and the research and the things that are happening, and then educating the community. That is what MAHA is all about. It is about the transformation, giving permission for us to get busy in our areas doing things to impact the health of our children, whether that be in school system, in just your local neighborhood, your community, whatever. Like, what you're doing is amazing. Um, and I think it should inspire hope to other people. And yes, your dad might have known the mayor, but people that work in these positions are supposed to speak to their constituents. They're
Yeah.
supposed to support, unless you have an outlandish
Different.
idea, but you're supposed to support what people are asking for. And by just giving that support, it just kind of allows it to kind of ripple out to the rest of the community that, oh, so and so, the mayor is supporting this. Not to say he's going to have his hands in the pot and doing all of the work,
Right.
but it's just having that surrounding support from people above.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And
I'm
even, they can work with their mayor in their local city and,
100%. Yeah.
just put it together. So we have our first event May 31st. It's called our Summer Wellness Jam. So we're gonna be showing the documentary To Die For.
Which is amazing.
Yes. And we're gonna have pickleball clinics for the kids. We're gonna have a kids
Yay.
workout class. We're gonna have a demo of some exercises that they have there. So just really highlighting and showcasing the Southern Recreational Center, just getting families involved together, getting them active, getting them moving. We're gonna have phenomenal giveaways that I'm so excited. I don't want to say it yet. Like, I want to just keep people on edge.
Yeah. You're good at that.
Um, yeah, so it's really exciting. And some of the giveaways, I'm just so honored and humbled that these companies have donated.
That's awesome.
And the point is to highlight companies that are doing good, like we said earlier. To give yes, they're more expensive, because I hear that, oh, but it's pricey. You're paying for quality. You're
Hmm.
paying for somebody who is doing extensive research and has had health, just like Branch Basics, the story of Branch Basics, the founder.
Yeah.
She had major health issues. She went
Yep.
through the holistic journey, and then she's like, oh my gosh, my house cleaners. She went through that. She endured that to now give us the gift of cleaning, having good cleaning products for our home that work. you know?
Hmm.
So it's
Right.
really like shifting also our perspective. Things are going to cost more, but your health, again, is priceless at the end. You know, you're
So
not going to,
I always challenge the money aspect because branch basics, I mean, I would have to really do a little bit of digging, but you buy it in a concentrated form and then you're just using it the little bit and you're mixing it, with the distilled water or whatever the
yeah,
recipe is for that particular thing. So I don't buy anything else.
I don't either. The
So I
concentrate
don't
will last
really
me like over
feel
a
like,
month.
I mean, for me, they even last a little bit longer,
Yeah,
and again, I think it depends on what you have going on, but I don't go to the store and buy a bunch of cleaning products. And
no,
I don't think I think it's actually saving me money because I don't
I do
even
too.
go down the aisle ever,
No. And
sales
the
anyways.
bottles that come with the
Yeah,
kit, you only have to buy it if it breaks.
right.
I've only bought one bottle in probably like the last few
I
years
haven't ever
that
replaced mine.
that
Yeah,
I've had like somebody broke it on accident.
right.
But like I said, the concentrate, it could probably last me like 2 months, probably. Um, but it's
So
worth
again, I
it,
think you have to do the math part of it. It might be a little costly up front, but you're not buying
Yeah,
it all the time,
correct.
and
Exactly.
and the other thing that I think is it's kind of comical is people buy multiple different cleaning things for the same thing because they see a commercial, they see an advertisement on the front of the thing, or they think that they need this to do this. So they have all these half bottles or like quarter bottles sitting. And
Mhm.
so again, because the same conversation comes up a lot. I'm sure you get the same thing, but like eating healthy is expensive and everything's expensive, first of all, today.
Mhm.
But when you are ditching the processed stuff, you're able to take that money and apply it to the healthier stuff. So it might
Mhm.
cost a little bit more in that respect, but it really should balance out, uh,
It
you
should
know,
because if you go to the grocery store, like I'm there, like scratching my head, soda,
mhm, so
Kraft mac
expensive.
and cheese, cereal is like $7.
Right.
Like you could probably buy organic chicken for
Right.
$7
Exactly.
or at least buy like organic vegetables that are frozen. So again,
Correct.
it's like changing that
Mindset.
mentality
Hmm.
exactly, which is not easy to do. And I get
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But if you really look in your pantry, and again, I'll tell my kids, I go, I'll buy ice cream every once in a while. I'm like, that's expensive. I can buy something else for us. Like, I don't buy them Oreos. I buy them the Newman's Own organic
Right.
Oreos, like every once in a while if I'm at Sprouts.
Right.
And they honestly, they taste like Oreos. Like,
They
no lie.
absolutely do. No, they
They're really
absolutely do.
good. They're so good.
So I just went to the store. It was kind of sad because it's like nothing is like healthy in an Easter shape. Not that my kids even want a lot of junk food, but it's like it's just nostalgic, right? You get the bunny at Easter. So I was just annoyed. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out. I went home and I looked on Pinterest and I saw like the Easter egg shaped peanut butter cups. And I'm
Okay.
not a baker and there was no like cooking time, but it basically was peanut butter,
Hmm.
so obviously organic creamy peanut butter.
Yeah.
It was flour, which you could use almond or coconut, and a little bit of maple syrup. And it's healthier. And my kids are getting Easter egg shaped chocolate and peanut butter.
I
So
love that. That's so cute.
it's the little things. Kids will
Yes, they do.
adapt to what we bring in our homes and what we help them to understand. And I will say,
Yes.
there does come a point
Explaining it to them.
explaining, and they know. But when they
Yep.
go out on their own, what has driven me to want to do the work I'm currently doing, like with dyes and things, is because when they are in your home, you are doing everything. They're aware of what you're bringing in, all of that. But when you put them in college and now they're shopping for themselves, and as
Yeah.
much as they know what brands we use and all, it is really hard. And it just got me really like fired up because I'm thinking, why are my kids having to go in the grocery store and having to be an ingredient detective at 18 and 21? Like it shouldn't be that way. And so it is about getting the stuff out of our food system. And so I will not stop fighting until those things are done. And at the same time, I'll just keep educating along. So
Education, education, education.
education, exactly. And I love that you're doing your back to your alliance, but I love that you're doing your first initiative as an outside event with movement because again, we get this bad rap, and I work with a lot of moms, right? That it's like,
Mhm.
I hate the gym. It's like, well, why do you have to go to the gym to exercise? It's like you can do tons of different things.
Yeah.
Find a sport, go play pickleball, right?
Pilates,
What
yoga,
I mean,
Zumba, hip
but
hop.
but in our minds, it's like when we're gonna get healthy, we have to get to the gym. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I hate the gym. I actually hate the gym. I don't have to go to the gym to work out. I can do things at home. I like to go in nature. I mean, I don't limit myself. I love pickleball when we play, but
Yeah.
it's just changing that mindset. So I love that you're doing an outside event where you're doing things to get people moving
Mhm.
and being in community, I think is super important.
Yes.
So really
Because,
excited.
it's like we're going through it, and community just brings just a sense of not being alone,
Yeah.
and just you can encourage each other. We can learn
Where do
from one
you see
another.
your alliance going? Do you see doing like
Oh gosh.
workshops? I mean, do you see having like a building with these people like all incorporated and together? You're not sure.
Honestly, I don't know. I
My
definitely
dream.
community talks, nutrition talks, focusing
Yeah.
on mental health, focusing on breath work,
Hmm.
seeing where this goes. And when I posted it, I mean, I've had not I, but we have had such good feedback just from businesses. Oh my gosh, I love what you're doing and I want to help. And it's just been like, oh wow, it's been really well received.
That's
And people are
awesome.
really excited, which I'm very happy about. And God knows where this is going to go. I'm
I love that you don't have a complete vision because it will allow you guys to go where it needs to go, which is awesome.
exactly.
My dream would be to have a one-stop shop, to be able to walk in some place where I can hit the chiropractor, massage, hit an education class, hit something like it all encompassing. I think when you have everything in a one-stop shop kind of way, it's more engaging and you're more inclined to do the things because you're already there.
Hmm.
And I wish like wellness centers would pop up like that. So,
I That's been on my mind.
all right.
We'll see what happens. Because like I said, people go out of county for so many services. I have done quite a few talks. So I tell people I don't teach perfectionism. I don't do
Mm-mm.
calorie counting, weight loss stuff, macros. It's really making it as simple as possible, less stress and enjoyable, because once
Absolutely.
these people start seeing, oh my gosh, like I feel so much better
Mhm.
and I'm drinking more water, even little, it's little things like that that make the biggest difference in your health. We
Absolutely.
have one body, and if we want to continue to age well, I want to continue to move, hopefully have grandkids one day, and I
Mm.
want to be able to keep up. I want to be
Yeah.
able to be a strong mom for my kids, age well with my husband,
Mm.
and teaching my kids what I'm doing now is setting you up for success as you get older. Sometimes
Yeah.
they give me heck, oh, but we don't need, and they deal with it. But they'll pick up a food thing and say, okay, bioengineered ingredients, they'll put it back. They
Right.
know that I won't buy that stuff.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
it's telling these kids and making them understand why. Like
I
I
was just
think
about
that,
to say it's like not just the no, but it's the
yes,
understanding of what that ingredient actually does to your body when you ingest it.
exactly. And they'll more likely to understand. And just like in the documentary To Die For, you hear these kids, I had this funny thing in my brain, and they know
Yeah.
when something's off. They
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
It's we have to be more
It's also
intuitive and
teaching the
listen to
kids
them.
to, right, to be more in tuned with the signals your body's trying to give to you, I think is also
Exactly.
an important conversation. You're doing so many amazing things. I love hearing your
Thank you.
journey and just hearing where you started. This is what I tell my kids all the time because I have one getting ready to graduate. Like wherever you're going to dip your toe is definitely not where you're going to end. It's just,
No.
I mean, I don't know anybody that's in the same job as, it's like because you grow as a person and a human
Yes,
and you learn and then you have an experience and that experience shifts you. And so
yes,
being
100%.
open-minded to all of that, and then just allowing for God to kind of, meander that
Yeah,
path for
guide
you.
you. Exactly. Like I told you, I thought I was gonna be
Yeah.
PT monk forever. And if you would have told me, I would have like launched a business. I've recorded some radio segments. I'm like, yeah, right.
Right.
I
Exactly.
just never thought that would happen. I really
But,
didn't.
back then you weren't ready for this, right? You weren't ready to
Exactly.
even
That's
hear
the other
that.
thing.
Everything comes in its own
I
timing.
was not there yet.
So as we wrap up, I always ask for some non-negotiables. Currently, what are a few non-negotiables you have to show up as your best self every day for you and your family?
So I'm very big about self-care.
Love it.
I'll get my nails done once a month. I'll try to make time with my friends, do a mom's night, even just having a day night with my husband, getting time away from the kids, working out. Um, Coming off night shift, I'm really focusing because I've done it for almost 20 years, trying to get myself on a normal circadian rhythm. So
Okay.
going to bed, I would normally go to bed between like 10, 11. I'm trying to go to bed way earlier than that and doing a devotional, reading a lot more. I've made a commitment to myself to read at least a few pages a day. Before I
Love that.
wasn't.
Hmm.
So just trying to be more grounded in my mind
Love
and
that.
just be more connected with my body and just really enjoying my kids and talking to them because I know my time is going to go really quickly with them. And I sometimes just cry thinking about it. And you're in the same situation, so you can attest to those feelings. So
Yes.
really just embracing, and we homeschool and I love it.
That's awesome.
Just really enjoying the time that we have together,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
love it. And you're doing amazing things and you're really showing up for your kids in a way. Not only are you helping to educate them, but you're showing them what a strong mom is and what a strong woman is, and that the life's going to take you all over the place, but that you keep showing up as your most authentic self. And when something is unaligned, you remove yourself
Yeah.
and you create other opportunities for yourself where it feels more aligned.
God in
Yeah,
everything and just really relying on
absolutely.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So I know that you guys are leaving today with definitely a few 1% shifts. I'm going to drop the information we talked about in the show notes. Take away something today that maybe you had not thought about, whatever that might be for you and your family, and just get curious. Pick a 1% shift that you heard throughout this conversation that, you want to get curious and try on and just see how it feels for you and or your family. And if
Yeah.
nothing else, give yourself some self-care. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
That episode had so many great takeaways. I hope you feel inspired and more empowered to make small 1% shifts on your wellness journey this week. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. If you want to leave a review, share your thoughts, and let me know how you're going to be implementing these 1% shifts into your life. And don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with another mama who could use a little wellness love. Want to stay connected? Join me on Instagram and Facebook at Live Life Balanced with Robin. Check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com for more resources and grab yourself some freebies while you're there. Until next time, I hope you find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to come your way. See y'all next week. Love to y'all.